Y'all need to help Stephen Phillips out over there. Out the door and off the radio.
Here's Stephen Phillips.
All righty, folks, we're back with you. We got Tom Sarmento. We got him on here. He is the man behind the General Lee. Got a brand new book out talking about keeping that thing going. I know it looked good on TV, but in all reality, it needed a lot of work. Good morning. How are you, Tom?
I'm just fine, Stephen. How are you?
I'm good, man. I am absolutely good. Yeah, you kept out. Now, not only did you work on the General Lee, though, that you worked for like Warner Brothers. You kept a lot of different cars going over the years.
Yeah, I did. I worked at Universal too. I started out with BJ and the Bear, Quincy, and a few other shows at Universal.
And then you went to the Dukes of Hazzard. But now that show,
yes, I did.
That kept you pretty busy. How many? Okay, that's the thing. Mike over here was asking how many cars did they actually have?
How many copies of the General Lee
did they actually have?
As close as we figure, it was Warner Brothers had approximately 317 Chargers.
Wow. And how many is actually left?
That's a fleet.
17.
17. Boy, y'all tore up a lot of cars, man.
Well, yeah, but that's what we got paid to do.
But that's the thing. Of course, now you had a lot of cop cars too, right?
Oh, geez. I had probably 700 to 800 of the cop cars because, they also doubled as bad guy cars. They would just paint them, different colors, two tones. They were all 77 and 78 Chrysler and Dodge Monicos. And we just used those as the bad guys cars most of the time until we got a bunch of Novas and Malibus in.
Well, now, here's the thing, a lot of people, of course, now the Dodge Charger is like, it's better than money in the bank to own a Dodge Charger. But back in the day, y'all bought them. What were y'all paying an average for a car back then?
Well, we were paying an average of $500 a car. And the car had to be able to start up and drive, and it had to have a title. And they would hand you an envelope with $500 in it.
Wow.
Now, they did buy a couple RTs that were really good-looking RTs, and they paid between $800 and $1,000 for them. But we had very few the RTs.
Wow. But now, as far as keeping these running, I grew up on Chrysler products. I drove them my whole life, and I know the ins and outs and the ups and downs. Were you constantly keeping these things going? I know they were tearing them up and jumping and all that kind of stuff. You got the new book out, The Man Behind the General Lee. Tell us about your book.
Okay. But answer your first question, you got to remember they were Chrysler products. They were powerful cars, but, they were actually ill handling on the corners. It was mostly built for, drag strip.
Right.
But yes, anyway, about my book, Man Behind the General. That is going to come out, it's scheduled to come out September 15th. And if you want a copy, just get a hold of me on my email. My email is hazzardcounty@carolina.rr.com. And, I'd like to have your name and address and an email address so I can get a hold of you.
Well, we'll actually post that up too while we're doing all this. That the General Lee, after you, this was how long was you the mechanic? The whole entire season how many?
Well, yeah, I did 6 seasons on the show.
Right.
The first 5 episodes done in Georgia, I wasn't there for those. And then we had probably 6 episodes that I worked on the cars from the Warner Brothers garage.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just got to be too busy, too many cars on the studio lot. So I actually then went out, on the set with this van that they gave me.
So you had to swap motors, pull motors, all that kind of stuff to keep these things running. What are some of the?
Did they all have 383s in them?
Well, most of them were 383s,
mm-hmm.
and we had some 440s. When we told them, what we wanted to find, Distributor in the front, good.
Yeah.
Distributor in the back, bad.
Okay.
That was the 318.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, we had a few of those, and we had to use them up. So what we did is I used them up as for smaller jumps,
Right.
90 to 120 feet, and I would put a single stage of nitrous on them,
Mm-hmm.
just to give them a little bit more power.
Right.
just to get a little more air.
Get a little more air.
Get them up in the air.
Yeah, that's true. And we did get some air.
Oh Lord, yeah. Now is the General Lee still, as far as that? It broke a few records on the jumps, did it not?
Well, Al Wyatt Jr. He was the one that went 237 feet over the train on Granny Annie.
Right.
And the only other one to come close would be Gary Baxley, probably on that Styx River jump. It's in the opening credits with all the dust behind it.
Right.
Well, we didn't measure, back then, that early in those days, but that jump was, I would say a good 200 feet.
So, yeah, I know. I'm with you on that. He's over here showing me pictures of the jump. I've got it in my mind. I don't have to have it, but yeah, I remember it because I grew up watching all that Dukes of Hazzard stuff. But, I really think if it wasn't for the car, I don't think it'd have been a big a success as it really was.
Well, and Guy Waldron was actually the creator of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted a 69 GTO. It was
right.
And he had it. He had the concept of that car. Well, the transportation coordinator, a guy named Hank Nessel, he goes, "Let me bring you another car." He goes, "And let me see, what you want." So he picked out a Dodge Charger. He painted it that 69 GM Hugger orange.
Right.
Had the decals and the push bar on it. The wheels, they drove it up and they loved it. All Gil actually saw on that was that paint, that Hugger orange paint. And he didn't know the difference between any of the other Chrysler cars, but it was a fantastic deal with the finding that 69 Charger. It had the hideaway headlights, it had a torque flight transmission. It had 8 3/4 rear end.
Yeah, and people that in the car business know that's all winners because they're tough.
Right.
Yeah.
At lead springs that had torsion bars. I mean,
right.
We couldn't have picked a better car.
No. I'm with you.
If it was a GTO, I guarantee we wouldn't be talking now about
Coil springs.
I'm with you. I'm honestly. So let me ask you something now. I mean, you was on Quincy, you did that, and then the BJ and the Bear and all that stuff. And I'd say the mechanic on that was not near what you got into with the General Lee. I mean, it had to be like, wait a minute, guys, I need a raise.
Well, it wasn't. I got paid good money for a mechanic back there.
Right.
It was almost $20 an hour. And there was plenty of overtime. It was time and a half over 8 hours. It was double time over 10.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a 80-hour-a-week guarantee.
Wow.
And I would still be going out, on the weekends. I would take my kids out there. I'd be out there changing doors, beating out dents, and just so that Monday morning when Paul Baxley come out there, I couldn't tell Paul I don't have any General Lees.
Right.
And I didn't know what was coming in from the studio, for over the weekend.
Well, back in the day, there was a saying that usually flew around: this won't make it to the screen. Did you ever used to say that? Like, yeah, you won't see that on TV.
Well, here's what it was, and this is what Guy Waldron told me. He says, the sponsor said it would not make it past the first commercial.
Right.
And, the ratings, for when it was first aired, it made the top 10.
Yeah.
And speaking of ratings, Dukes of Hazzard was the only show that was rated number 1 and number 2 in the same week.
That's crazy.
They had the first episode, and then they showed a rerun, and it actually got number 1 and number 2. See, only TV show that ever had 2 number 1 ratings in the same
most
week.
downloads.
Well, now let me ask you something. After you didn't retire after the Dukes of Hazzard was canceled or whatever. What did you do after that?
No, I did one more show with Billy D. Williams and Ken Walls. It was called Double Dare.
Right.
It was another Warner Brothers, film, and Paul Picard was the producer on that, and we had almost all the same people, and it was done up in San Francisco, back and forth from San Francisco. And Ken Walls, he was a diehard hot rod fan, but he was born 10 years too late.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is he was driving a little Chevy 4-door in there, and Billy D. Williams was driving a Rolls Royce. Well, Ken Walls was the driver, for the Rolls Royce. But he said he wanted a muscle car, otherwise he was going to leave the show. And he told me, he says, Tommy, he says, I want to drive a General Lee on the show. And I says, Ken, that's never going to happen. So anyway, we put our heads together. And so what we did is we took one of the original General Lees. We put a white vinyl top over the flag. Right. We painted it a metal flake blue, sprayed the interior black, and we put a set of centerline wheels on it. And he was happy, to be driving that in the show. So that car, when it was sold, it was blue with the white vinyl top and those centerline wheels, but it was still an original General Lee, and the number is etched in the back window. Now, the guy that bought that car, he took it to different car shows, and they were for only movie cars only. And they didn't want to let him in because it was a General Lee. So I would get a phone call from whoever was putting on that show, and they asked me, we're trying to check out to see if this car is a real General Lee. And I says, it's probably got a white vinyl top and it's blue. And they go, yes. I says, that is a real General Lee.
Wow.
And, he, to this day, I believe he still owns that car, but he's put it in the garage and he's never shown it since.
Oh, that's a shame. We need to get it out. We want to see it. Yeah, we want to see it.
Get it out here on Cruise Week.
Tom Sarmento, he's got a brand new book out that's coming out, The Man Behind the General Lee, and we can give you access to it. If y'all would like to know how to get up, just call us here at the station, and because it's going to be a lot of interesting. I mean, that's the thing about it. Everybody sees all the the movie with John Snyder and all them, but actually the people behind it, which we've got to know a lot of the stunts, and then you stunt drivers, and that's where the fun. If I was on the movie, I would want to hang out with y'all. I wouldn't want to hang out with Tom Wopat and them. I'd want to hang out with mechanics and the guys jumping the cars. That's where the fun would be.
Well, that's why we had 2 second unit. We had a first unit and a second unit. Mm-hmm. First unit that was sound, and that was with all the actors. The second unit, we very rarely shot any sound, and we were left alone. We were about 50 miles away from the studio. It was a good little drive, but we got our job done. We had a good time. We had some bumps and bruises. We had concussion, a dislocated shoulder. Henry Kinsey, when he jumped that sheriff car into that oak tree and was supposed to hang it up in that oak tree, he got his back and his neck and everything like that. He was pretty wounded there for quite a bit of while, but he survived it. But we didn't have any broken bones or blood on the set.
So let me ask you something. Did you keep any memorabilia, like a General Lee or two hid out in the backyard that nobody knows about, or maybe a hood or a fender or something?
Well, you know, Steve, I'm asked that question all the time. They go, "Why don't you have one?" And you know, the two of the producers came out to me on my last day of the show, and they told me that you know, just wrap it up and go home. And I says, "Hey, you know, I worked for you for 6 seasons. You're not even going to let me work out the week. You're telling me to go home." He goes, "No, we're going to pay you for the week. Go home." But he says, "Hey, we want to sell you all those 17 cars. Are you interested in them?" I said, I don't think so, Skip." And he goes, "Well, you can buy them back for $500 a piece." And I says, well, how did you come up with $500 a piece? He says, "Warner Brothers wanted their initial investment back on the cars, and we figured it was 500. All the rest of the paint job, the wheels, the all the cosmetics and everything, that was all charged off on Dukes of Hazzard. That was all paid for. All they wanted was their money back on those 17 cars that was left." And I said, "Nope." Because I'm figuring if I wouldn't know where to put 17 cars.
Right.
And secondly, if I would have bought them, I would have probably still be on them, and they'd be rusting away and wouldn't even be worth scrap. So
I don't know. You know, you
Well,
think about that. They actually found the one over here in Dahlonega. Actually, the first General Lee they ever had. I think it was Dawsonville or Dahlonega. Was in a junkyard. It was a dilapidated, and I think they rebuilt that car. They claim it's the first one. I don't know.
well, that was what they call Lee 1.
Right.
And I believe the car was painted blue and it had a 71 on the door.
Yep, that's it.
And you know, that did sell. And I think that the golfer Bubba Watson bought that car.
Mm-hmm.
He bought that car at auction at Barrett Jackson. But what they did is the people that had that car, they stripped that car down completely, replaced every piece of sheet metal, every piece of interior with new stuff. The only thing that was original would have been the VIN number.
Yeah, that's what I was fixing to say.
And the VIN number, they actually sold that with the dash, but you know, you could go and you could get another VIN number, you know, from year one, or you know, they repop all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, what he bought is all new sheet metal. And you know, I know one guy that paid $5,000 just for the hood of that car, that 71 car, in the original shape, in the original color of blue.
Wow. Tom, we have got to go, man. I'd like to keep you on because I love talking to you, no doubt about it. Got a brand new book out, that the man behind the General, and I'm not kidding you, this guy has got so many stories to talk about. Y'all want to get this. We've got the information over here if you'd like to find out, send him an email, this, that, and other. But Tom, thank you so much for coming on, and we're going to keep up with you and get you back on here in a day or two. And
well, let me tell you this. If we get a chance, Steve,
yeah,
why don't we get a little bit closer to the book? Why don't you? I'll do another show for you.
I'll be all for it, man. I'll be all for it. I guarantee it. So,
okay.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Tom. You're a great guy. Good
Guys,
friend of mine.
great having you.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for spending a little time with us. And remember, you can tune in every morning at WJULradio.com at 8 a.m. Eastern. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook, The Morning Dish.